Hi everyone, good morning and welcome to today's morning report on Tuesday the 30th of June with me, Rich Perry, market analyst at Tantec Markets. The European session has got off again to a bit of a negative start really. The DAX is sharply lower by 0.9%, CAC also 0.9% down as well. FTSE about 0.8%, so not quite as bad, but still the equity markets are lower. And that's come as, I suppose, I mean the Asian markets were fairly decently settled yesterday, or this morning really, and the renewed selling pressure has come as the euro started to fall back again. There was that big rally on the euro yesterday. I mean, 300 pips back from the lows was it's an enormous rally actually on the euro. Few things flying around as to why that happened. I mean, for example, the announcement from the SNB that they were sort of still active in the market and looking to, I suppose, support the euro against the Swissy to try and prevent the Swissy from becoming too overvalued. That is one reason why the euro would have rallied, but also maybe the fact that the whole situation surrounding Greece is not necessarily as bad as perhaps everyone thinks, and perhaps there is still prospect of some movement here on a deal, on maybe a yes vote by the Greek referendum as well. So I mean, it's not all lost yet on the Greek situation, even though they're going to, well, more than likely, in all but name default on their IMF debt today, even though the IMF may well not refer to it as a in inverted commas default. We'll still see the Greeks not paying that debt off today and moving towards this referendum at the weekend. So the volatility in the markets is still there, but it's interesting actually because the volatility has sort of started to calm down a little bit in the bond markets. You look at the German Bund yield actually started to sort of settle down a bit to a certain extent, and also the Spanish as well. The Spanish 10-year is not all that volatile today either, so perhaps this could be a signal that the equity markets, although they're lower today, may be starting to settle, and also the euro as well. But we'll have a look at the charts in a minute, but certainly very interesting moves there. In terms of the dollar, I mean, you had that sharp volatility on the dollar index yesterday, driven by that euro move, and it's still again basically settling back into the range that it had last week. So no real sort of movement either way in that, even though I suppose that the euro is weaker today, and that's helped to drive that dollar index higher. In terms of the announcements that we've got to look forward to today, it's interesting because we have got the the UK final reading of Q1 GDP coming out at 9:30, expected to come in at 0.4%. But then after that, we have the Eurozone the Eurozone HICP, or the inflation data, expected to drop slightly. Interestingly, having gone back into inflationary territory last month, it's expected to drop slightly to 0.2%. So still in inflationary territory, but just off the high of that move last month. But it still could well be supportive of the euro if that comes out positively today. Then into the afternoon, we've got the US consumer confidence. Now that is an interesting number because it was just slightly weaker in the last couple of months, but expecting to bounce back again this month to 97.3. So again, that would be further suggestion that or give further economic data that backs up the hawks that would be looking to raise interest rates on that FOMC. So any improvement in that consumer confidence would be strong for the dollar today. Now that takes me to my chart of the day, which is the DAX. Now, obviously, we've had this huge flying around on the DAX in the last couple of days. But what actually is the impact on the chart? Well, negative at the moment. We had it off the lows actually yesterday to close still sharply lower, but well off the lows. Interesting that we haven't yet tested that 10,800 area, which is sort of the confluence of this 38.2% Fibonacci level and also these series of lows back from early to mid-June. So we haven't tested that yet, so not too horrendously bearish yet. The momentum indicators are sort of turning they have turned over. I mean, you've got a stochastic sell signal, for example, which is not certainly very positive at all for the DAX, but it certainly looks as though the reaction that we've had today, this morning, is sort of backing up the downside move. Now, I always say that when you have a strong candle, you need to see that backed up by or confirmed by the subsequent day's candle. We've obviously had a very strong bearish candle yesterday. We're having a bearish move today, so that is not positive in any way at all. And this is on the hourly chart. That was that strong bearish candle or strong bearish day that we saw yesterday throughout the day. Even though it rallied into the afternoon, it then sold off sharply into the close, and that selling pressure has continued today. You actually fell below initially in the first hour of trading today. You fell below the low of yesterday's trading period, 10.964. We breached that low. 10.933 is the low now, so that is the initial support. But it certainly looks as though on all these hourly momentum indicators as well, that pressure is sort of pointing towards sort of further downside back towards that 10,800 level. Sorry, let me just reset that chart. Annoyingly, yeah, back towards that 10,800 level. Certainly the selling pressure is still there in the DAX. Further downside pressure, you've still got, I mean, within the fact that this is a bearish move, I think you've still got scope for any sort of rally today. Probably would be sold into, but still I think that there is further move to the downside to be seen. Yeah, it certainly looks as though that is the case. Now, in terms of resistance levels, you'd say today's opening or yesterday's closing low around about 11,090 is around about where you find that resistance coming in. Obviously that spike high, that reaction high that we saw yesterday at 11,288. But it certainly it is a messy chart, and the volatility is still coming through this DAX chart, so it is a difficult one to really say with too much conviction. But certainly you'd say that on the balance of evidence here, the bears are still in control, and selling rallies seems to still be that case, but still trading above that 10,800 key floor, which is I think important for this chart. So I wish you good luck in the trading on DAX today. A lot of volatility still running through, and I will speak to you later. Thank you.